The night Ethan kissed me, I heard Liam's voice at the door, and the world stopped breathing. I'm Claire Weston, wife, mother. 20 years deep into a life that looked perfect from the outside. But perfect can feel like prison when no one really sees you. Ethan did. He wasn't just one of Liam's friends. He walked into my kitchen, dripping from the pool, shirtless, confident, and didn't flinch. He didn't see a tired mom, or someone to politely ignore. He saw a woman. If you've ever looked in the mirror and felt like a ghost in your own life, stick around, subscribe. Tell me, has one look ever lit a fuse under your whole existence? For me, it wasn't one look. It was a slow undoing, and it started with him. Liam had just turned 21. He and his friends made our house a revolving door of energy, beer cans, and bravado. I smiled, played host, kept the fridge full and the laundry going. But inside, I felt like wallpaper, safe, predictable, forgotten. And then Ethan appeared, like a spark in dry grass. He offered to help clean up after dinner. Just a small gesture, but his tone wasn't casual. It was deliberate, grounded, noticing. You always take care of everyone, he said. But who takes care of you? I laughed. Said, that's what moms do. He smiled, but didn't look away. That moment stayed with me. Not because of what he said, but because of how he looked at me. Like I still mattered. Like I still existed in the days that followed. I caught myself watching him, and hating how easily he made me feel again, warm, awake, dangerous. One night, Liam went out. Ethan stayed behind, said he wasn't feeling well. I knew it was a lie. He stayed for me. I busied myself in the kitchen, hands moving, heart rattling. Then he said it. Claire. Just my name. But in his mouth, it felt like an invitation. He leaned against the counter, watching me. I think you've forgotten how vibrant you are, he said. I see it. I see you. Doesn't it ever cross your mind what it would feel like to choose yourself for once? Something inside me cracked. Because he was right. I had forgotten. Forgotten what it felt like to be more than a role, to be wanted. Not for what I did, but for who I was. We kept talking, but the air between us was shifting, heavy, charged, like a match waiting for friction. He reached out, fingers brushing mine, barely a touch. But it lit a fuse straight through me. I should have stepped back. I didn't. Leaned in. My pulse was loud in my ears. Not out of panic, out of need, out of remembering. He said my name again, and then his lips found mine. Gentle at first, then certain. Hungry. It wasn't reckless. It was relief. It was breath. For one impossible moment, I wasn't a wife. Wasn't a mother. I was just me. And then, the front door opened. Liam's voice. And, just like that, everything collapsed. There was something in his gaze, an unspoken echo of everything churning inside me. A reckless blend of fear, desire, and a guilt that didn't just sting. It settled deep, like a bruise blooming under the skin. What happened next unraveled in flashes. His mouth found mine. Ethan kissed me. And it wasn't tentative. It was certain. Like we'd both been waiting for that moment far too long. His hands moved with a quiet urgency, awakening a part of me I hadn't realized had gone dormant. The memory of his touch clung to my skin like heat that wouldn't cool. Then, Liam's voice. Sharp and sudden, cutting through the haze like a blade. The front door opened. Ethan and I jolted apart, breathless. His eyes darted to the hallway and mine followed. I steadied myself just in time for Liam to burst in, full of energy. smiling like nothing had shifted. I couldn't return the smile. I couldn't look at him, not with Ethan's kiss still lingering on my lips. That night, in bed beside Mark, I stared at the ceiling. He slept peacefully, familiar, predictable, and I lay there beside him like a stranger in my own life. My body was still, but my thoughts spun violently, circling Ethan, that kiss, that moment that cracked something open inside me. I was married. I had a home, a family, a life others might envy. But something in me had come loose, and Ethan had seen it, touched it, before I even understood it was missing. In the days after, I moved through the motions. Cooking, folding laundry, checking lists. But it was all mechanical, hollow. My hands moved, my lips smiled, but I felt distant from everything, including myself. I caught myself drifting, staring at nothing, replaying the kiss again and again. Not just the kiss, but how it made me feel, wanted, real, awake. I told myself it was a mistake, a slip, that I still loved my husband, that I had too much to lose. But the truth kept pressing at me like a whisper I couldn't drown out. Then came the knock on the door. I opened it, and there he was. Ethan, toolbox in hand, like this was just a casual favor. Mark said the laundry room cabinet was acting up, he said, his tone neutral, but his eyes held something else entirely. I paused, everything inside me tensed. Back here, I said, and led him down the hall. The air felt charged, heavy, waiting. He got to work in silence. I stood nearby, pretending not to watch his hands, the tension in his shoulders, the way his presence filled the room. Every movement reminded me of what we hadn't said, what we hadn't undone. Then he turned, looked at me like the room had gone still. Claire, he said quietly, that night, was it a mistake to you? My breath caught. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, he went on, stepping closer. About you, about how it felt. I didn't answer. I couldn't. But I stepped toward him anyway. The distance disappeared. One touch, then another. And before I could stop myself, we were kissing again. This time with nothing held back. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, wild. Like we'd both been suffocating and finally found air. The door shut behind us. We didn't speak. We didn't have to. The silence was filled with everything we couldn't say, everything we couldn't avoid anymore. For that stolen moment, the world outside didn't matter. The rings on our fingers didn't matter. Only this. After, we stood, in the quiet aftermath. Our breath loud in the silence. I looked down. He looked away. He started, but his voice faltered. There were no words, no way to cleanly undo what we'd just done. And deep down, I knew I didn't want to. That scared me more than anything. In the days that followed, I unraveled, in private. I went through the motions, careful and composed on the outside. But inside, I was restless, fractured. I couldn't stop thinking about him. About what it meant. About the ache I hadn't realized had become part of my everyday. I didn't know where it would lead. I didn't know what I wanted. But I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I couldn't keep pretending. Betrayal weighed heavily on me. Had I dishonored my marriage, my family? Then there was Mark, the man I had sworn to love, honor, cherish. His presence only magnified my guilt. I once thought I loved him, or at least I had, but now, I wasn't sure anymore. Did what we had suffice? Could it possibly drown out the yearning for something more? Something that made me feel alive, seen, wanted? The silence between Ethan and me was unbearable. We never spoke of what happened in the laundry room. It was as though an unspoken rule governed us, something too dangerous to acknowledge. But it lingered, an invisible tether between us. The tension was suffocating, and every time our eyes met, the truth hovered in the air, unspoken, neither of us daring to confront it. I was caught between two worlds. One was safe, predictable, comfortable, but suffocating. The other, with Ethan, was reckless, intoxicating, an invitation to rediscover a lost part of myself. I kept asking myself, over and over, was it worth it? Was the passion I found with Ethan worth risking everything? My family, my life with Mark? The freedom to be truly seen. Was it worth throwing away everything I had built? Every day, the weight of indecision became unbearable. It felt like standing on the edge of a precipice, knowing one step forward could plunge me into the unknown. Yet a voice within me, the part I thought I had buried, urged me to leap, to follow the fire inside me, regardless of the cost. I tried to focus on my family, on Mark, on Liam. But every time my thoughts wandered, they always returned to Ethan. His presence haunted me, infiltrated every moment of my life. The guilt was overwhelming, but the longing was worse. I had to make a decision, but every time I considered it, I felt paralyzed. The life I shared with Mark was stable, but it wasn't enough. The connection we once had felt distant, submerged beneath years of routine, sacrifice, and roles we'd settled into. And then there was Ethan. He reminded me of something I thought I had lost, the woman I used to be, full of passion, desire, and life. In his presence, I wasn't just a wife or a mother. I was seen, but guilt. How could I betray everything I had worked for? How could I risk my family, my marriage, for something that could be fleeting? And yet, every stolen moment with Ethan, every kiss, left me aching for more. The way he made me feel alive again. It was intoxicating. But as the days passed, the consequences of my choices began to settle in. What had I expected? That a few moments of stolen pleasure could fix me? That I could fill the emptiness with passion and escape my reality? One evening, when the house was quiet, I knew what I had to do. Mark was on the couch, absorbed in something, and Liam was out with his friends. I stood in the living room, heart racing, mind whirling, caught between everything I had and everything I wanted. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't smother my desires any longer. With trembling hands, I reached for my phone. The message was simple. Can you come over? I need to see you. There was no turning back. I knew the risks, but in that moment, I was willing to face whatever came. As I pressed send, fear and excitement swirled inside me. The wait felt endless. Every sound in the house seemed amplified. The ticking of the clock, the hum of the refrigerator, even the distant sound of Liam laughing outside. But the thumping of my own heart drowned out everything. When the doorbell rang, I nearly froze. But I couldn't stop now. I stood there, 1,000 doubts swirling in my mind. Should I call it off? Could I really go through with this? Then, I heard his voice, soft and familiar, just outside the door. Claire. His name on his lips was a breath of air, cutting through my hesitation. I opened the door, and there he stood, Ethan. His eyes locked onto mine, the intensity unmistakable. Neither of us needed words. We both understood why he was there. Without speaking, I stepped aside, letting him in. As he walked past me, our bodies brushed, and I felt that familiar spark, that electric pull. When the door clicked shut behind him, the air felt thick. There was no turning back now. He turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw more than desire in his eyes. There was understanding. Unspoken, but there. "Are you sure?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The question hung in the air, heavy with everything that was at stake. I nodded, my body trembling. Yes. A flicker of relief and desire flashed across his face. He took a step closer, his presence enveloping me. Without hesitation, his lips found mine. It wasn't tentative this time. It was urgent, consuming. The kiss was fire. When his hands pulled me closer, everything else faded into the background. For a moment, there was no mark, no family, no guilt. There was only the feeling of being wanted, of being seen. Every part of me that had been dormant, buried under years of routine, came to life once more. As the intensity of the moment passed, I lay in Ethan's arms, feeling the warmth of his breath against my skin, but in the stillness of the room, reality crept back in. I could hear Liam's laughter outside, Mark's steady breathing in the next room. The guilt crashed over me like a wave. I had crossed a line, and there was no undoing it. Days passed, and the weight of my choices grew heavier. I couldn't look at Mark without thinking of Ethan. Every moment with him felt like a performance, every smile a lie. I couldn't keep, pretending that everything was fine when part of me was elsewhere. There was more at risk than my marriage. Liam, my son, had no idea that his mother was torn apart. And Mark, he deserved more than this. He deserved the woman he married, the one who stood by him through thick and thin. The day came when I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. I stood before the mirror, staring at the woman I had become. She was weary, broken. I had been living in a fog, but now clarity cut through the haze. With a deep breath, I sent Ethan a message. It's over. I couldn't keep living in this chaos. I had to reclaim the parts of me that had been lost.